don't ever judge a book by its cover. We all heard that, right? And I believe that for Toastmasters especially, that's something I believe we should hold dear. We have in Toastmasters International the World Championship of Public Speaking. And that's a great example of this sentence. This year's champion is an engineer, security engineer. Those are not normally the people that we expect doing motivational speeches. The one from the year before, 2014, actually went quite a few times to jail, but he turned his life around and became an HR consultant, traveling around the world and helping people having better lives, making better decisions and believing their potentials. And that's one thing that Toastmaster makes. It allows you to see your potential and help people see your potential and help you shine. People in this room are not the stereotype of the motivational speaker. We're not as large as Tony Robbins, and we're definitely not the funniest people on earth. At least I'm not. So we're really bad with stereotypes. And that's exactly the topic, or part of the topic that Chris is going to talk about. He's talking from the storytelling manual, speech number 5, bringing history to life. From a historical lens, he's going to approach this topic and how it's actually a loss, not for the person that's not listened to, but every single person in the society. His objective is to talk about an historical event, fictional or actual, to build up a plot, develop a character, and help us build up towards that very hot moment of the speech when you're just waiting for the conclusion, the apotheosis. That's his objective. So Chris Warfel is going to talk about the man who won the war. With the man who won the war, please help me welcome Chris.
It's no secret that one of my favourite films is Ratatouille. It's brilliant. If you haven't seen it, it's about a rat who becomes a chef, which is quite an unusual career option for a rat. But he's cheered on by the ghost of Chef Gusteau, the greatest chef in all of France. And the film ends with the critic Anton Ego eventually conceding, not everyone can cook, but a great chef can come from anywhere. A million miles away from the Parisian restaurant scene, metaphorically, but perhaps not geographically, are the battlefields of the Second World War, where literally millions of people gave their lives. And how often is it that we get to use literally in its actual sense? As Lawrence Binion's poem for the Fallen reminds us, they shall not grow old as we grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn them. At the going down of the sun in the morning, we shall remember them. But when you think of war heroes, who do you think of? Churchill, obviously. We shall fight them on the beaches. De Gaulle, perhaps? Schindler? Montgomery? There's one person whose contribution I think we often overlook though. Perhaps because, like Remy the Rat, he comes from one of the most unusual places. A geeky mathematician named Alan Turing. To tell his story, let me take you back to the 1920s, where an engineer named Arthur Cerebus has just created a powerful new cipher machine called Enigma. When an operator presses a key, the signal travels through a wire, through a plug board that can be configured in billions upon billions of different combinations. It then goes into a scrambler that changes it to a different letter, and then into another and another, in fact 5 scramblers in total, each rotating in sequence to make the code unbreakable. This means that the Allies have no idea what the Germans are doing, because they're unable to read their communications. Churchill knew how important this was when the war broke out, so he established an elite code-breaking unit at Bletchley Park. He issued orders that it should give him everything they needed without delay, and it should be reported to him that this was done. It seemed that not only would we be fighting them on the beaches and the landing grounds, but we would be fighting them at the forefront of mathematics as well. At this time, Turing was working as a mathematician at King's College, Cambridge, where he was described as a rather odd chap. Just at that point, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs had come out, and Turing had gone to see it, and after that, he could be regularly heard chanting the famous line, "Dip the apple in the brew, let the sleeping death seep through." Which always reassures me when my colleagues do that. At Cambridge, he developed the idea of the Turing machine. This was the blueprint for the modern computer. So you see that, based on my design, we should be able to construct a machine that can answer any mathematical problem if it can be expressed as an algorithm. His paper on computable numbers took the academic world by storm. One day, a senior professor came to him and said, "Do you know, Alan, I've been asked to recommend some of our more gifted mathematicians for a special project, and I think you might be the chap." Just like that, Turing was on his way to becoming a government codebreaker. At Bletchley Park, the Enigma code was widely considered to be unbreakable. The Allies were decrypting a few of the messages, but mostly by guesswork, and it would take so long that by the time they got it decrypted, it was of no use. But Turing was determined to do better. One night, a fellow codebreaker, Mark Anderson, walked into Hut 7, where they keep the archive of previously decrypted messages. Turing was in there, and he was alive with excitement. "Look at this," he said. "Every day at 6:05, the Germans send a weather report." "So what?" said Anderson. "We have our own weather reports." "But don't you see," cried Turing, "we know that the 6:05 message every day will have the German word wetter in it. We can use that to break the day's code." "Pretty clever," said Anderson. "But we'd still have to check the billions upon billions of plugboard combinations." But Turing wasn't done there. "We could connect the machines in serial," he explained. "By doing that, they'll mirror each other and therefore cancel out. We can design a machine to check all of this electronically." This was the breakthrough that the Allies needed. The unbreakable code could be broken. Only Turing, with his conceptual knowledge of his Turing machine, could have come up with a system that allowed the Allies to break the code. They still had to check 17,000 different scrambler combinations, but they could do that in a matter of hours and get the information out of the door. This couldn't have come at a better moment. Just 6 weeks before Turing's machine was finished, the Germans changed their encryption and made it even more difficult. Now the Allies' only hope of succeeding was Turing's machine. Luckily, as you might have guessed by the fact we're not speaking German tonight, it worked. They were able to decrypt the German messages and understand what was happening, giving us a huge tactical advantage on D-Day. Unfortunately for Turing, after the war, the Germans still had no idea that the British had cracked their code, and the British were in no means in any mood to dispel that myth. So they dismantled Turing's machine piece by piece. They burned or locked away all of the documents containing to it, and they dismantled and closed down Bletchley Park. Turing's war effort would not even be acknowledged. But worse was yet to come for him. In 1952, he reported burglary at his house, and when the police came round to investigate, he naively revealed he was a homosexual. still a crime in the UK at the time. He was prosecuted and convicted, banned from doing cryptographic research. His security clearance was revoked and he was humiliated through the media. Worse, he was forced to subject to hormone treatments, was left in fat and impotent. By June 1954, he could take it no longer. Took an apple, dipped it in cyanide, let the poison death seep through, and took a bite. When the sun goes down in the morning, remember the fallen. Remember those who gave their lives on the battlefield, facing horrors that I cannot even imagine. But remember too, the geeky mathematician Alan Turing, who died in disgrace when he should have been a war hero, bullied into suicide by the country he saved. If there ever was such a thing, he was the man who won the war.